Hello there. Today we are going to learn about rotations. So on page 10 in your journal you have translations. On page 11 you have reflections. And on page 12 is where you're going to put your information about rotations. So you're going to start with this piece of paper. And on the back side you'll notice that I've drawn some lines there to help guide you when you fold it. So you fold it there, you can fold it there, and then when you're done folding, you can put the glue on the back. So this is a brochure fold. You put glue on the back and then stick it to this piece of paper in your journal. And we are going to learn about rotations. So for rotations, a rotation you may have previously called a turn. And what a rotation does is that it turns every point in a figure around a center of rotation for a certain amount of degrees. Now, for rotations, they get very specific with their directions. We have what's more familiar to us. This direction is clockwise, and it is abbreviated. If you see it abbreviated, it will be abbreviated by CW. So that's the way the hands go around a clock. So that is called clockwise. We have the other direction that goes against the way the clock hands go, and that is called counterclockwise. And we would abbreviate that CCW. And I put that in parentheses. So there's a handful of things that we need to know, some information that we've got to have in order to execute a rotation. So info you need to know to be able to rotate. You need to know the center of rotation. And for our purposes this year, that will usually be the origin for us. You need to know the direction. So we're talking about, are we going clockwise or are we going to go counterclockwise? And the last thing that you need to know is how many degrees. We're going to go 90, 270, 180. So the measure of the angle. And those are the things that we need to know. So then on the inside, we're going to open this up all the way. I neglected to label these points before I copied this, so that's my fault. So this quadrilateral that we got going on here, quadrilateral is just, it's got a figure with 4 sides. This one's A, this one's B, this one's C, and this one's D. So put that on there, and I've already labeled the coordinates for you here. I just neglected to mention it over here. So for this one on top, it says we're going to go 90 counterclockwise. So we're going to take this direction, 90 degrees. Now what's super helpful about 90 degrees is that this here is a right angle. So what is here is going to turn 90 degrees and fit there, that way. So A prime is at 2, 1, will now be at this place, which is -1, +2. B, which is at 3, 5, it's at -5, +3. And this is B prime. C, which is at 5, 5, will now be at -5, +5. And then D, which is at 6, 2, will now be at 2, 6. So that's D prime. Oops, I didn't label A prime. Nope, and I didn't put it here. So comparing these coordinates with these coordinates, what pattern do you see from here to there? Do you see that the X and the Y switch spots in the coordinate pair? Do you see what was the Y is over here now, and it's also changed its sign? So there's our algebraic rule. Now 90 degrees this way is also the same as 270 clockwise, which is going that way. All right, so 180 is our next one. Again, make sure you label this pre-image A, B, C, and D. And that's already listed for you here. This time we're not going 90, we're going 180. So what happens is this guy is going to be diagonal from where it started. So it's in quadrant 1 currently. It's going to end up in quadrant 3. So A is at 2, 1. A prime will be at -2, -1. B is at 3, 5. It will now be at, I didn't label it. There's A prime. B prime will be at -3, -5. C is at 5, 5, and now it's going to be at -5, -5. D is at 6, 2, and now it will be at -6, -2. And connect your dots. So look at it. Look at how it's oriented now. It started off A, B, C, D, and now it's A, B, C, D. So this is a turn there, a rotation of 180 degrees. Comparing your coordinates from here in your pre-image to here in your image, what pattern do you see? I think you'll pick up on that pretty quickly. It's the same thing, but both coordinates have changed to their opposite. and you would be correct. Now the fun thing about 180 is it's a half turn whether you go clockwise or whether you go counterclockwise. So counterclockwise would be this direction. But if you go 180 clockwise with the clock hands that way, you'll still end up in the same place. So 180 is kind of fun in that way. Also, when we did reflections, we learned that the X and the Y stay in the same place, but they change to their opposites. So this orange image, pre-image, turned into this red image when we reflected over the X and the Y axis at the same time. So look at this rule. It's the same rule. So a 180 turn is also the same as reflect over your X and Y axis. And last one. 270 counterclockwise. Again, counterclockwise is going against the clock hands. So it's that way. So 270 is going to end up over here for this example. Yep, and label this again A, B, C, and D. So we're going to end up here. So when I take A and I turn it, there's 90 degrees, there's 180, and over here, this is going to be 270. This is A prime. B prime will end up at 5, -3. So there's B prime. C prime will end up at 5, -5. And the last one, D, will end up at comparing the pre-image coordinates with the image coordinates. What pattern do you see? Do you see that the X and the Y numbers switch places? Do you see what started off as the X coordinate is now the opposite as the Y coordinate? So 270 counterclockwise is the same as 90 clockwise, which would be this way. So you have this on this side, and you have this on this side. We have these three for you guys to practice with. This one's going counterclockwise, so against the clock, this way, 90 degrees. This one's going clockwise, so the same direction as the clock. And then this one, you have to look and see what's going on here and tell us what rotation is happening here. That's all we have for today. Thanks for listening.